Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop. My name is Laura Bras. I'm a PhD student at UBC in Language and Literacy in Education. I am also a link instructor with Vancouver Community College. Today, we will be discussing gender. This is the 6th workshop out of a series of 8 free drop-in sessions dedicated to women's issues. This is a collaboration between Edith Lando Virtual Learning Center and Vancouver Community College. Today's moderator is Nora. She represents the Edith Lando Virtual Learning Center. Hi, Nora. She will be in charge of making sure that everything goes well in terms of technical aspect of this session. Before we move on, I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Jennifer Jensen. She's a professor at the UBC in the Language and Literacy in Education department. She's also the director of the Edith Lando Virtual Learning Center. And like I said, the one who has made this project possible. Thank you, Dr. Jensen. And our guest speaker today is Daniel Gallardo. I'm really excited to have him here. I wanted to thank him for taking the time to be here and talk to you guys today. I look forward to his talk, and I'm just gonna go ahead and give the floor to Daniel.
Hi, everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. So this is a illustration by Marcos Chin in the New York Times that represents the entire diversity of the queer community. And I wanted to share it just because it's so beautiful and colorful. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge that I am calling in from the unceded and stolen lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I am really privileged to be here as an Indigenous settler and grateful to continue to build reciprocal relationships with the Indigenous peoples of the land. I am originally from Mexico, which is still part of Turtle Island, what is known of Turtle Island, Mexico. I was raised in the mountains of the Purepecha, but I am Nahuel Centro and Purepecha on my father's side of the family, and of settler ancestry on my mother's side. And then I was raised in Mexico City, which is where you see the eagle with the serpent, and came back to this place called Vancouver 2 years ago to start my graduate studies at UBC. And now I'm a doctoral student in educational studies, specifically with gender and sexuality. So my pronouns are they, them, theirs. I think you'll be seeing a lot of pronouns in your lessons today. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. And this is just a beautiful picture of me with a monarch butterfly, which is a connection that Canada and Mexico have together as the monarch immigrates and comes back and goes forward to these lands and doesn't know boundaries or borders that have been constructed. So I'm here today to talk about SOGI education. And if you don't know, SOGI stands for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity. It is a education that focuses on the spectrum of sexuality and gender and how it has been constructed by the society we live in, and their understandings of gender and sexuality can be seen through the context of our culture, of our place, and our traditions. I usually like to start with a bit of embodied experience and something that I can relate other than me just speaking. I love to present music, poems, and in this next clip, you'll listen to an explanation of a musician talking about a song, and then I'll just discuss a little bit of what it means for me in my own context and what I think the artist called Empress of means by the song. So it'll be just a 2-minute video. Enjoy.
A lot of my songs come from a struggle, and it's about me just trying to overcome that struggle through my music.
I'm only an image of what you see.
I'm Laura Lee Rodriguez. I go by Empress of, and I'm a musician.
I'm only an image of what you see. You don't know me, you don't know me, you don't know me. I'm only a woman if woman is a word. I'm only a woman if woman is a word. I'm only a woman if woman is a word. Bird to me, bird to me, bird to me.
Woman is a Word is a song about someone just like putting me in a box for like a set of circumstances I was born into. I love playing that song on stage. It makes me feel so empowered.
So part of the lyrics from this song says, I'm only a figure if you can see my frame. I'm only a struggle if I get in your way. I'm only a woman if woman is a word. And I think it talks a lot about how we've been constructed and assigned to these roles to represent what it means to be our identity. And in trying to deconstruct the way that we have been assigned to this binary box, it comes from the idea that, and in a tweet, the artist Empress of says, this song means so much to me. I wrote it as a reaction to feeling like the word woman put me in a box of things that I was capable to do. So a lot of this understanding that your sex assigned at birth, which is ties along with your gender, and how those stereotypes and and the things that we have assigned since even knowing who we are define so much of our identity. So it puts us in a box of whether what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, and how both of them are actually constructed by the context of the society we live in. I want to give you a little bit of an example. I was raised in as I said, in Mexico, and we had obviously this beautiful parades that we did to celebrate our culture. And in one of them, I was always forced to be in the role of the man with my sombrero, which is like a hat, with my typical white attire, as you can see in the picture where you can see all the men. And in the other picture, I would always see the woman lined up with these beautiful skirts. And I would ask myself, why couldn't I be one of the one wearing skirts? Why was my gender of being assigned a man at birth defined what I was wearing, how I was acting, how I wanted to express who I was, and the limitation of that? I was never given that skirt. So in trying to find my identity, I was like, we need a skirt. And I started to really express how I wanted and breaking from those boundaries of what made me when they assigned that constructed box that checked me as a man. And then I got this beautiful other dress. I haven't taken the picture, but you can try to imagine the how it would look. So obviously then, and in many places around the world, including my country, Mexico, we still have these gender boxes where gender is binary, which is one or the other. Either you're a boy or a girl. It is fixed. They tell you that if you're a boy, you have to use certain pronouns. It's assigned. It dictates mostly your sexual orientation as well. So a boy likes girls, girls like boys. And that's the only thing that we see. So you can even see it when you have these gender reveal parties where you have those balloons and you explode the balloon and the pink comes out or the blue comes out. And even before we are born, we are already assigned to a set of constructions. And as we're moving forward, and this is something that it's been seen a lot, we have this spectrum of identities. Your gender identity doesn't have to be necessarily between a boy and a girl. It can be inside both of them. And it can be something like I now identified, someone that is not neither or. Gender expression, biological sex, and sexual orientation can also be seen as not a binary, but actually an individually determined, which is separated from each other. So you don't have to your gender identity doesn't determine your sexual orientation. There are many different types of iconographics and information that tells us this. So you can see a lot of the gender unicorn or the genderbread man, the genderbread individual. And it tells you that gender is a spectrum, not just male or female. It is a range of expressions, and it is not defined by your body parts. It is how you relate to yourself, is what you see in your head, how you feel, how you identify it, and it's not necessarily tied to your sexual orientation. And finally, gender is a personal identity that is not determined by biological factors. So when we think of the new way of that sexual orientation and gender identity has been taken, it is really important to think that your identity doesn't have to match your expression, your sex, and your gender doesn't have to match your sexual orientation. And you become a more whole person in understanding all these different aspects. Now, it is really important for me to say that regardless of trying to draw these lines in our body, it is not determined. This is still a very Western way of understanding who we are. And the lines and definitions of our bodies can really represent the human ecology or our holistic selves. For example, in this, in the genderbread person, you do not see spirituality, for example, which is very important for indigenous peoples, for other peoples around the world, in the sense of understanding that there is more than just expression, identity, attraction, sex. It comes from our context, our cultures, our traditions. So sexuality, gender, sexual orientation, and expression can become this whole mix of things. You can have and I love this. This is from a book called Seeing Gender. You can see it on the screen, where it gives you a lot of, written by Iris Gottlieb, which is an amazing visual graphicer and non-binary visual graphic designer. And they tell us that they can be so many combinations of who we are, right? Sexuality has now been understand as you can be asexual, demisexual, homosexual, bisexual. So there's so many options, and that you don't even have to define yourself. In gender as well, which we will get into more of the meaning of transgender, and the way that you express yourself, the biological sex you were born with, and the attractions that you may have that may discern from sexuality. When thinking about sexuality, sexuality cannot be separated from the context that we were born with. So intrinsically, and thinking in a more intersectional type of way, where all of the things who we are come together when thinking about gender, race, class, disability, nationality, ethnicity, age, generation, geographical location, faith, spirituality, all of those come into intersections of the way we understand sexuality. And it's important to say that within this normative that has been constructed within who we are, whether it's this Western way of understanding gender as one or the other, being a boy or a girl, it has taken a lot from people who do not see themselves like that. So a lot has been taken from women who died at childbirth, who did not have reproductive rights, access to birth control, who had been forced to make the decisions of you have to have a child because you're a woman. You are born to have children in that sense. In the same way, how to make more pure and white a lot of Black, slave, indigenous and peoples and Latin people that were migrating to other parts of the US, for example, were sterilized and couldn't have children to keep that pureness, to keep that white supremacy. So those understanding is something that sexuality has always been in that binary, as well as if you are assigned and your gender is a man, you are only sexually oriented to women and vice versa. So when thinking about now gender expression and how we think of gender as a complex, dynamic, individually determined, it's a gender expansion when a lot of all of the things that make us who we are actually come into play. So how our age, our skin tone, our indigenous heritage, our trauma, our sexual orientation, our language, our ethnicity, and all of these things allows us to understand the complete idea of our identity that is not seen only as the way the parts you were born with between your legs, quite literally. So when we think of the umbrella of the meaning of transgender, a lot of transgender people actually enter inside this binary of being a trans man or being a trans woman. They decide to be one or the other, but within the same binary, between the same umbrella of transgender, you can find non-binary. So in here you can find gender queer, gender fluid, bigender, agender. So people that move away and are transcending the notions of that constructed box. They don't want to be just pink or blue, but actually want to be in the array of colors available. It is important to say that in this umbrella of falling out of the gender binary, there's so much gender diversity around the world that doesn't fall between being a man or a woman, and how our understandings and our context of being either pink, blue, or pink, pink, blue, and pink, I'm sorry, pink and blue, baby pink and baby blue, that's what I meant. It's that we have always been tied to these understandings that come from a Western view, a European, Judeo-Christian Western view of being a man or a woman. And we have all around the world this gender diversity that goes beyond, and even has seen in Mexico, for example, we have Mushe, which is a third gender. And in here in Canada, Two-Spirit, which is it goes beyond even gender, it's more of an identity. It's an indigenous specific way of understanding that you are neither a man or a woman, but actually have an embodied way of understanding who you are. And more than anything, it includes spirituality and your indigenous culture. So prior to the European colonization of Turtle Island, many indigenous people recognized more than two genders. And many had totally different ways of understanding human embodiment and the way that we see ourselves. As a translation of the Two-Spirit comes from, it's an Ojibwe term called Nismanidowan. And as I said, it describes more of a spiritual relation to yourself than just your gender. So when we think about our identity and who we are, Two-Spirit is actually tied to our culture. So we cannot, the diagrams that I have showed you don't really represent Two-Spirit inside there. So we have this ongoing problem where we are still bounded to categorizations that allow us to pick and choose, right? Oh, I'm a pansexual, gender queer, aromatic, you have all these options, but at the end of it, it's still categorizations that, although they provide safety, it is still certain impositions that sometimes don't allow us to question who we are. And I think it's really important in these times that we start to question all the time if we are really comfortable in understanding who we are, if we are not questioning or moving away from the binary and moving away from those assigned things that we got from birth. So this is a video of Ty Defoe.
it's decolonizing things that were placed upon indigenous people in the way that this dance means that you can use your body and celebrate who you are, how your spirit wants to move. The idea is that all of these spirits are sort of presented in each person, that you're not necessarily switching from one gender to the next, but you're transcending gender.
So I think something that comes along with understanding of trans and understanding of two-spirit is that we're actually trying to transcend the binary that was imposed through Judeo-Christian values and settler colonialism. And I just want to end with this understanding that this is an artwork by Anishinaabe painter Norval Morisseau, which is called Androgyny, and it was asked of him to paint his identity. And when painting it, it was a entire understanding that we are not only ourselves. Usually when we paint ourselves, we just see this, right? This body figure where you have to put your clothes on, put your expression, identify with this single view. But something so beautiful that Norval created was this holistic understanding that he is more than just himself, right? He is the land, he is his community, and it goes beyond just our single identity, but actually a collective of all the traces that we are. When you picture yourself, you don't necessarily see a single person with a Black background. You see yourself with your family, with your community, with your favorite food, with your pets, with your partner, and in a place that you love usually. So something that when you go back and try to think of your gender identity and sexual orientation, what would be the possibilities of painting a whole entire picture of who you are instead of those limit categorizations that allows us to check a list of boxes. And finally, I have an amazing video. I'm not going to show it, but I'll share it in the chat about gender beyond the binary. It's a video from UBC of the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and it'll just give you like a quick summary of the things that we have seen. And I hope that can help you give like more a holistic sense of what I tried to cover in this small presentation. Thank you.
Such a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Daniel. I'm gonna let the students ask questions if they have.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Really, it was very new for me. I don't have any knowledge about trans. I don't have any knowledge, and really everything was new for me. I think that I need to study more, and then yeah, everything was very new for me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, thank you. I'm sorry. I can be. I tried to make it a more simple version, but I do understand that the activities that you will have now after this little lecture will really help you identify certain things and maybe make those connections with what I presented, and understanding more of when do we use pronouns, where who identifies with what, our understandings of sexuality as beyond this construction of orientation. And yeah, thank you for having me, and I hope it.
Thank you. I think that it's very vast area. I don't, that I think that if I wanted to study about it, it's a very vast area. Now I have you gave us heads up that how can I start it, and it's good. Thank you so much.
I do recommend this book. It's a great book it's called Seeing Gender. It's really accessible, and the translation it's really simple because it has a lot of pictures. So if you're more interested in understanding gender and beyond that, I'll leave it in the chat as well if you yeah, so there we go. By Iris Gottlieb.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for our guest speaker?
I've been learning about this for many years. It's not something new, but I do understand there many people have different point of views across the world. I think, like Daniel said, there's a very Western view, Western Western way to look about the gender. I think probably, at least when I first heard this idea, I was shocked. I was very surprised about what I heard. Yeah, I think it's definitely something very new to many people. Yeah, it's not new for me.
First of all, Daniel, thank you so much for the land acknowledgement. We meant to do that, so you did it for us as well. And I just wanted to thank you for the inspiring and colorful slides that you used. You made them not just student-friendly, viewer-friendly. I absolutely love them. I love the way you ended your presentation with the androgyny slide. And by the way, guys, that refers to the possession of both feminine and masculine features. And that was such a beautiful slide to end your talk with, Daniel. I love the song you used to introduce your topic. And I also loved overall the wonderful and empowering talk you gave today. This is a complicated topic, and you did a great job presenting it to students today. And thank you for sharing aspects about yourself. Much appreciated. Thank you, Daniel. Wonderful job.
I hope somebody stay with you.
For sure. Thank you so much. Wonderful. And the slides, those would be perfect for another lesson, a lesson in itself, to just have the students dig in. Much appreciated. Thank you, Daniel.
Perfect. Thank you. Well,
So,
have a wonderful time and enjoy the rest of your class.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Daniel.
you.
So our guest speaker has left, and we will stay on and work a little bit. So again, this is a complicated and complex topic, and we are only going to touch on it a little bit. Okay, we do not have time to dig in, but Daniel has shared a couple of resources with you. I also typed in the title of the book. And I think it's also because, so Miranda said she was more familiar, but I think a lot of us are not very familiar with the topic itself. I myself am learning as well. I cannot say I know a lot. I'm learning. And I find the topic fascinating. And so we're just going to touch on just one aspect for today, okay? I'm going to share my screen with you. So if we could just take a couple of minutes. You're supposed to match the words in the box with the definitions on the right-hand side of the screen. And I've used different colors. I think that the most difficult ones would be the phrases, okay? So I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes, have a look, and then we check together. So let's have a look at the missing noun there. We've got female pronouns, and Daniel touched on that, yes. She, her, hers. For instance, these are the female pronouns I use to identify myself, yeah. Did you pay attention to the way Daniel introduced himself? Did you pay attention to the pronouns that he used?
They.
Okay, good. All right, so moving on, this vocab, we've got an option, something you use instead of something else, and that pretty much makes sense. Is the only word left there, alternative, yeah? For instance, with me, it would be just, I see myself as a woman, right? I'm heterosexual. I'm attracted to men only, right? And then we have queer. So queer is an umbrella term, right? That refers to someone who is not straight. So sexually, they would not be attracted just to men or just to women, right? And so then there are people who choose they, right?
You mean that they believe that they are men and women, both of them?
Yeah, so it's not a binary, like you said, just male or female. See, this was a good question for you to ask Daniel, right? See, so like I said, this is complex. For some of us, it might be new. Some others, are more familiar with the term. So yes, pretty much that. So let's go on, check the vocab, because I really want for us to listen to that segment of a podcast I prepped for us today. We have adjectives: nervous, miserable, or relieved. Which one do you think goes with the first definition? Very unhappy.
Miserable.
Nervous. Miserable.
Miserable.
Miserable. Yeah, miserable. It's another word for someone who is unhappy. How about someone who's feeling happy because they are no longer worried?
Relieved.
Relieved.
Relieved. And then the next one is nervous. So why do you think that nervous is worried about something, Marjan, as opposed to miserable? Do you see the difference between nervous and miserable?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, there is, that miserable. It's like it's a feeling.
Not that chance.
It's a feeling that are stuck in rut. We feel that our feeling is like a miserable.
There you go. Whereas nervous, for instance, my dog had surgery last week, and we took him to have his stitches taken out. So I was nervous. I didn't know how the appointment would go, right? Or like you said, you would be nervous to ask someone about their gender identity, right? So miserable is unhappy, whereas nervous, you're slightly worried about something new, something important, right? That you don't really know how it's going to turn out. All right, let's move on. A few verbs that I hoped would help you with the listening bit. You changed to something.
Switch.
Switch to.
Very good. So spoken English, you most likely will hear switch to more often than change to. How about the next one? Someone loves and respects you, or you love it or respect someone.
Adore.
All right. Ask for something, like you really, really want that something. You badly want it.
Beg.
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 Beg. I really like this word. It's strong. It's powerful. Fight or disagree with someone.
Resist.
All right. And then the last one is wonder.
Wonder.
Now, the last part for me is the most important, because I find the phrases a bit more challenging for language learners. Let's see. I'm going to try to. Okay, can you see them? Perfect. So, allow someone to leave.
Let someone go.
Let someone go.
Go. Okay. Accept an idea, and then maybe you decide to use it.
Go with it.
Very good. Go with it. Maybe at the beginning you did not get on board, but in the end you go with it. You accept it. As far as, and I'm not gonna continue. All right. How about the other one? Change your opinion.
Change one's
Change
mind.
one's mind.
Change your mind. Yeah. And the last one.
Knock the wind out of someone.
Yeah. You will hear the mother say that. It's a good expression to know. Let's say you hear something that's a complete shock to you, a complete, surprise, and you say, knock the wind out of me. Okay. And you'll understand this phrase better when we listen to the podcast. Okay, so this was a little bit of vocab. Now, there might be some more. I just thought we would have a quick look at this particular vocab. So I'm going to go ahead and play this podcast. Before we do that, let me just share the questions. So we have comprehension questions first. This listening is longer than the ones we've done before, and it's fill in the blanks. We will listen to it twice. We will only record it once. And I'm going to play it so that it works well for everybody. Okay, so I'm going to play, like I said, just 4 minutes out of this podcast. It's about a mother who is documenting her child becoming transgender. I'm not going to say what that means right now. Hopefully you will tell me at the end of the listening, okay?
6 years ago, I gave birth to my first and only child, a boy.
Hello, I am 38, I'm 29, and I really love you.
When he was 2 years old, my son began insisting on wearing only pink clothes, preferably ones with lots of sparkles and ruffles on them.
She dresses so pretty, she really loves me. She really
When he turned 3, he begged me to buy him some dresses and let him grow his hair long. That made the grandparents a little nervous, but we went with it. So her dress comes off?
but kind of hard, it would hurt. That one's a fairy and that one's a princess.
Why is she a fairy and she's a princess?
Because fairies have magic and princesses don't. That's the difference. And also, they can't fly and they can't. Fairies fly and princesses walk.
And then one day, in a conversation that I kind of knew was coming, but it still knocked the wind out of me, my child told me that he was actually a girl, not a boy. He looked me in the eyes and told me something had gone wrong in my tummy that made him come out as a boy instead of a girl. He wanted me to put him back. He begged me to put him back, to fix this mistake. He was 3 years old. I spent the following year resisting, trying to present alternatives. I told my child over and over again that he could continue to be a boy and play with all the Barbies he wanted and wear whatever he liked, dresses, skirts, all the sparkles money could buy. But my child said no, absolutely not. She was a girl. What are your favorite things to play with?
My princess things.
Your princess things? Why do you like princesses so much?
I just kind of do.
Do you think it's okay for boys to like princesses?
But I'm a girl.
After 12 long months of making both myself and my child miserable, I finally let my little boy go.
Goodbye. Now let's do it. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
We switched to female pronouns and told our family and friends that she was a girl now. She wanted a new name, a girl name.
How did it go?
At first, she picked Rainbow. I was relieved when she changed her mind and named herself after her aunt. So now I have a girl,
Talk about princesses.
a daughter.
Actually, I need to hear about how spaceships fly.
A really happy daughter. I adore my daughter. But sometimes I look at photos of my baby boy and I miss him so much. This probably sounds crazy, but sometimes I wonder where he is. It's like he was a dream I had one night, and then morning came and I woke up and he was gone. And now there's this little girl in his place, telling me that the boy was just a dream, just someone I imagined. As far as she is concerned, there never was a boy.
So here is the key. I was able to check with most of you. Take a look at the screen and see if you've got the same answers, if you've got similar answers. So you've had questions 1 to 15, fill in the blanks. Okay. Now, is it clear what the word transgender refers to? Here is a definition. So like Daniel talked about, right? We are assigned a gender when we are born, male or female. And he said gender is not a binary, just male or female. All right. So transgender, that's about someone who has a gender identity that is different from the one they were assigned at birth. And that's what this episode was about. The child was born as a boy, but he identifies as a girl. So that's an example of transgender. Okay. So we are going to look at questions 2 through 8. So how do you think that the mother felt when she first learned that her little boy was transgender? Her little boy was identifying as a girl. Based on what you listened, based on her tone of voice and your own impression, what do you guys think?
First, he don't believe that and doesn't accept.
Yes, at the beginning she didn't accept. She couldn't believe it and she didn't accept it. What do you think, Saba?
I think she's a little upset, but first, then she accepts that, I think.
Okay, upset at first and then she accepted. Okay, let's move on to the third question. Why do you think it was important for the child to be called a girl instead of a boy? And so a switch to female pronouns, she, her, hers.
Because his feeling is that way.
Okay.
So he wants to be called a girl.
Yeah. And do you remember the name that the child chose at the very beginning?
Rainbow.
Rainbow.
Rainbow, yeah, Rainbow. And
Did they keep that name, Rainbow, or they changed it?
Yeah, they changed it.
Joanna, why do you think it was important for the child to use these female pronouns?
I think the boy doesn't
Wasn't happy
because inside he felt he's a girl.
Wonderful response, Joanna. Yeah. How do you think the child's family and friends reacted to learning that he was transgender? And the mother mentioned something about the child's grandparents. Or if you don't remember what the mother said, how do you think their friends reacted? How would you react if you were one of the friends or one of the family members?
I think that that at first is very they don't accept it at first, but it takes a long time that they want to adopt themselves with the transgender, and then just only they need the time. Nothing, and at first really I think that it's very weird for them, and then they don't want to accept it.
Yeah, takes time. Now, do you remember how old the child was when the mother was recording this episode?
3 years and
okay, so let's go with like 2-3 years old,
3
like when the child called the mother, and 3 when she was recording. So how do you think that the child's peers, classmates, right, colleagues, friends would react? It doesn't say here, it's just discussion question for you to try and imagine. How do you think that the child's peers reacted when they learned she was transgender?
some people, they don't accept kind of things. So
but these are children, 2-3 years old. Do you think they react the same way as adults react?
Yeah, I think according to children, they accept whatever he is.
Okay, so they are maybe more open-minded than the adults.
Yeah, definitely,
because for the children, they have no clear ideas for the gender.
Would this be the only explanation? They have no clear idea in terms of gender, or maybe there's other reasons why the children would be more open?
Yes.
And what other reasons would there be? What do you guys think?
I think because they don't know.
So it's the same. They don't know. Okay. Okay.
I don't. They don't care about these things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Moving on to the next question. Do you know someone who identifies as transgender? You don't have to be.
Yes.
Just okay.
Yes.
Might be a
Yes.
friend. Might be a coworker. Jana.
A friend. About 30 years ago. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So my friend, he is the only one boy in her family.
Yeah.
Yeah. She has 5 sisters, elder sisters.
Yeah.
And now she's a girl, and now she's very happy.
I see.
Yeah.
And may I ask how her family, her sisters and parents reacted when she told them she was transgender? Do you know?
As I know, at the beginning, she didn't tell her parents because it will make them heartbreak.
Yeah, miserable, right? Maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
And do you know how old she was when she told her parents she was transgender? Do you know how old she was then?
She transferred her gender in her 23rd years old, and after 5 years ago, she decided to tell her parents.
I see. It took her some time to.
Yeah. Make times they acceptable.
Yeah. Which is why it's important for us to learn and be open-minded, right? These are people that could be our friends, relatives, right? And
exactly.
So,
exactly.
just like this mother, you love them for who they are, right? Regardless of their gender identity. Now, I just wanted to share this picture with you and ask you if you know who this is, appeared on the Time cover. I don't know if you have watched the show Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, I know the Orange is Black, but
you know the show, so then you have seen Laverne Cox. I think that's the name, right? So there's a little bit.
I don't watch.
Okay.
Any episode, yeah.
Okay, so that's one of the shows where Laverne Cox played. So a man who decided to identify as a woman. So this was a complex topic. Again, I don't expect you to learn all these terms right away. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to take in. I just hope to be open-minded, and I understand we don't know a lot. We are learning, but just keep that in mind. Be open-minded. These are people that could be our friends, relatives, coworkers, right? I'm going to share the material with you. There were other questions, comprehension questions for you to answer. You have the podcast, you have the link. There's lots of other episodes if you would like to listen to. This is the first podcast we've listened to as part of our workshops. So yeah, that's all for me. Thank you all for participating in today's workshop. I appreciate your honesty, your answers. Let's keep learning and keep an open mind. Thank you all and have a good weekend.